Good to go.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So, today's episode of the Guardian Pod is going to be a little different than other episodes have been in the past. We're we're running about half mast. We're down 50% of the usual Guardians that you see here. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to try to involve you all that are here a bit more in the discussion than we have in the past. So, hopefully, you will all post quite a few questions and things in the comments section. And some of you braver, less shy types hopefully will join us up on stage so that we can discuss a lot of what's happened this week because we've got quite a few updates, certainly more than in other weeks. So, quick disclaimer as usual, we're not members of the core team with Puff, so anything that we say should be seen as speculation. The only thing we know are the things that you know and the things that have been publicly announced either on the Twitter or within the Discord, or that have been talked about in the various AMAs that have been going on regarding Mantle, CMET, Cook, all of those new updates that we have. Also, we're not giving financial advice, and although I'm a lawyer, I'm not providing legal advice, particularly since none of you have paid me. So, quick update on what we've seen this week. Obviously, we had the poker at the end of last week. Poker game. We got a good turnout at almost 300 participants. I think mostly people were really, really happy and excited to participate. I saw a couple complaints, but hey, can't please anyone. Those rewards have not yet been distributed, but we have confirmed everyone that won, and I expect the distribution to happen at any time. Basically, all the information is sitting with Google. We just need them to actually uh, pull the trigger on sending the rewards out. So who knows when that exactly will happen. Also, we've had the whole AutoFly fiasco. If you bonded in AutoFly, you were given an opportunity today within a 4-hour window to unbond and switch to the manual allocation so that you could get more BMT and participate in any games that may be coming. Although we don't have any confirmation that, in fact, there are any games in Chapter 4, I would expect there to be some. But if you're stuck in AutoFly, don't worry. I don't think it's the end of the world. I expect you'll do better than exactly half of everyone else. And you may do worse than half of everyone else. So that's where we stand. The other big news-worthy event this week was at the beginning of the week was an AMA that Jordy spoke in that was hosted by Mantle on the Mantle Spaces, and they talked about some major developments, right? Primarily CMETH, um, and the creation of CMETH, as well as the governance token for meth and CMETH, which will be called Hook, COOK. Um, if you didn't listen to that AMA, I would highly suggest doing so. I've posted a couple of links that are relevant here in the discussion chat. First link is kind of just a quick summary of that AMA. In that link, there's a link to get to the Spaces AMA and listen to it. And then the second link is a more general information that can impart some important knowledge so you can better understand what exactly a liquid restaking token is. If you don't have that knowledge already, I suggest starting with that article because the AMA kind of assumes that you understand liquid staking tokens and liquid restaking tokens. And that can be kind of a complex topic if you don't have any sort of experience with it. So I'm going to give a quick recap so that we just have the information. And then if anyone has questions, to the extent we're able, we'll provide clarification and answers. But basically, I think the most important question is to answer is what is CMETH, right? So meth is a liquid staking token, and it's been extremely valuable. It's existed for about 6 months, and frankly, it's done incredibly well in that 6 months time, and I expect it to continue to do quite well. CMETH is in kind of a spin-off of meth. It's a liquid restaking token. So you'll not only be eligible for by holding CMETH, you'll not only be earning the what is now, I think, currently a 7% yield that METH holders are getting on top of Ethereum. You'll be getting that 7% yield by holding CMETH, plus you'll be getting whatever other benefits you'll be able to get from the restaking that will be done with CMETH. Basically, the idea is when you deposit your Ethereum into some sort of a staking delegation, like EigenLayer, for example, you would receive those EigenLayer rewards, but your Ethereum would be trapped, right? It would be stuck being staked and earning those rewards, and you can't use it for anything else. A liquid restaking token like CMETH, basically you can stake your meth in this instance into a protocol and receive what would be a receipt token. In this instance, the receipt token is CMETH, which allows you to then go and use the CMETH that in other dApps in order to get even more gains while you're still earning the yield from meth. You're still earning whatever it is that CMETH will be earning, for example, EigenLayer points or Carrot points or whatever else Mantle is able to negotiate vis-a-vis partnerships, right? And then you can still use your CMETH to interact with other dApps on Mantle, on Ethereum mainnet, and wherever else it might be able to be used. So that's the basic idea of what CMETH is. We have every reason to believe it's going to be a very lucrative token in the same vein of meth, right? Meth has become pretty popular in the last 6 months. A lot of people have made a lot of money just by holding it. Obviously, it's more lucrative just from a passive standpoint than Ethereum, and that's why it's become so popular because Mantle has really done a good job of backing the value of meth with Mantle's massive treasury, which I know we all get tired of hearing about, but it is legitimate. And not all of it is held with just the value of MNT. So let's see. So I think that sums up CMETH pretty well. The next question I think that's important is when is all of this going to launch? The CMETH token doesn't, and this is important, it doesn't currently exist. So any CMETH token you see for sale, don't purchase it. It's a scam. But along with it will be created a governance token called Cook, and Cook will be used to govern both CMETH and METH, just the general ecosystem of the two tokens. Now, I don't completely know how important this is going to be, but Cook is obviously going to be important for any major investor who wants control over how the CMETH is being used and in what ways it's being restaked, what rewards it's earning, and probably all sorts of other Mantle-related ecosystem decisions that will be left up to the community that will be able to vote using their Cook. So Cook's value is directly pertainable to both CMETH and METH. So potentially great value. What we know about Cook and its relation to Puff is that Cook will have seasons. I think it was said in the AMA, please correct me if I'm wrong, that CMETH and Cook will launch either at the end of, as a token that you can actually hold, will either launch at the end of Cook Season 1 or the beginning of Cook Season 2. And Puff should be viewed as a preliminary to Cook's season. So what we understand that to mean is Puff is essentially season 0 of Cook. To what degree that reaps a reward for Puff holders, we don't fully understand. I expect that there will be a lot more information released, though prior to the final decision in Chapter 6. And I expect that Puff holders will be significantly rewarded whether they choose the option to go the Cook route or go the second route, which we really don't have much clarity on. But we know a final decision is coming, and now we know that at least one of the paths that will be delineated in the final decision will involve receiving or being rewarded Cook in exchange for or because of your puff holdings. So that's what we understand. Sorry if that was a little too in depth or a little too dense, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And I think I'm gonna pass the time. If we don't have any questions, and it looks like we don't, I'm gonna jump over to Jordan because I think he's got a number of he's uh, he's spent his free time just dreaming up various scenarios that may or may not
For
come to pass.
sure.
We're ready to
My
talk about.
crazy conspiracy theories. But yeah, I mean, thanks for
That's
that. Like,
right.
I think it's important to have like a background of what we're talking about and the actual details before we get into speculation. So we got a list of questions, and once again, this is like open forum. So if you have any comments or you want to hop on stage and debate us or add any comments, you're more than welcome to do so. So let's go with the first question. What do you guys feel like a fair evaluation or the percentage of the Cook airdrop you think would be fair to give to the Puff community? Initially, I was thinking maybe 20 to 30% for us farming in season zero, right? And I also assume that we're earning Puff by either buying, selling Puff, or staking, and we're earning points through that. I don't know if you guys had any different opinions on that and what you think can constitute that.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to come up with an estimated value for Cook right now because we understand so little about what its role is going to be within the meth ecosystem. Um, I will, and then it's equally as difficult, I think, to come up with an idea of what percentage of Cook will be awarded to those of us holding Puff. And I think that's hard because we don't really understand the second choice in the final decision. So keep in
Yeah, for
mind,
sure.
whatever percentage of Cook is allocated to Puff, that I expect that to split the community in half. Meaning,
Yeah,
if we're getting 20% of Cook, then I expect only, roughly 50 to 60%
100%.
of Puff community will choose the Cook path. But I expect the other side of that path, whether it's keeping Puff or it's the pinata that we've heard so much about, I expect that to be equally as enticing, and I think that's intentional. And so I think any rewards will be split halfway, meaning that puffers win because both paths are going to be lucrative, and then we're splitting the community in half.
That's
But
true.
let's
Yeah,
let's say let's say we did have that 20%. How long do you think that would be vested over? They're not going to release 20% of circulating supply straight away.
well,
Yeah,
I,
would
I
it
think
be
they're
6 months or
I think they might give us like an airdrop. But I
20%?
think yeah, I think they might. I mean, this is obviously speculation, right? I think it might just work like a normal airdrop, but I know that it's going to be released in Q3. What time it is released in Q3, to me, that would be quote unquote the vesting period, right? Because if it takes 3 months for Cook to go live, then if we burn our puff in a final decision, we have to wait those 3 months to actually benefit or get those Cook tokens.
But then, if they all become released at the same time and there's no particular value to it until it's opened up within the markets, then there's also a chance that everyone could dump it straight away. What's going to protect Cook
I
from
mean,
that
that's
happening?
true. I do think they might like release some type of immediate use case for Cook if
Yeah,
it was to be airdrops, like you can stake it or use it to vote and earn rewards, probably to prevent that. But yeah, I mean
but
that's a good point.
So
that's what you go.
So
You
chapter
can say
six is slated to end on July 9th, right? Which is 9 days into quarter three. Um, so yeah, sorry, just doing some quick math in my head. So we'd be 9 days into quarter three. It's very reasonable that Cook could be Cook is going to be, I think, and obviously I'm not a developer, and certainly not a Web3 developer. Um, Cook is probably going to exist before CMETH is finished. So it's reasonable to think that at the time of the final decision, Cook will exist, and that we won't just receive points toward Cook, but we will in fact receive the token itself. Also, no one is trying to release a coin that immediately gets dumped. And while I don't understand, and because I don't understand all of the potential uses for Cook, I don't understand exactly what can be created to keep people from dumping. But we've seen from this team, even with Puff, is yeah, there's some mistakes made along the way, some like small errors because they kind of are seems like they're moving quickly and they're trying to get us to chapter 6. So we see some typos here and there. We see maybe a 24-hour delay like we just saw in the unbonding. But we also see that they have a pretty good understanding of the psychology behind crypto holders, right? And so they allow us to unbond in chapter 3, but immediately make chapter 4 bonding available so that there's less of an incentive to dump your puff, right?
Yeah.
So I expect they'll understand that a lot of people will want to or might be enticed to sell their Cook immediately if it's even an option. So there will be some mechanism to entice people to hold on to the Cook. And Cook's real value won't be seen until the launch of CMETH, because as CMETH becomes more and more popular, which I expect it to be even more popular than meth, that's when Cook's real value starts to really go up, in
Well,
my opinion.
especially if Cook can be combined with CMF to bring even more yield. I know that I was chatting to you guys about what they do at Coty, which is a project I was involved with before Puff. But they have G Coty, which is a governance token, and you can use G Coty to bond next to your Coty, and it significantly increases your yield and APR. Which again, that could be a use
Yeah.
case for Cook as well. It'd be quite. That would then
Yeah,
increase the price of Cook. The G Coty token started off, I think, about a cent when Coty was at 12 cents, something like that, if I remember rightly. And now they're pretty much the same because there's so much value in holding that governance token. Could be quite exciting to see if Cook could offer something similar.
I mean, it's very clear that Mantle wants to attract um, locked liquidity, right? They see a value in the TVL and they want to bring it to Mantle, and then they want to allow people, once they've locked that liquidity, to um, have these receipt tokens that they can then use elsewhere. Within Mantle, sure, but also beyond. Um, and so something like that blockhead that you described would make a lot of sense to me, because Mantle seems to value and favor rewarding those people that are highly invested in the Mantle ecosystem. So if you're a CMETH holder, a METH holder, and a Cook holder, it seems like you're gonna it would make a lot of sense that Mantle would probably want to award those sorts of individuals rather than just the people that want to benefit from CMETH,
Yeah, I agree.
without actively taking a role in the governance of it.
no, I think that's a good place to pivot. Given that we talked about the potential value of Cook and the potential um, locking of liquidity, what are your guys' input on what do you think the potions could be? Like from my speculation, I think the potions could be like a point multiplier for Cook. I don't know if you guys know of Blast, but Blast kind of has a point multiplier where if you do certain actions on their ecosystem, your points are multiplied by two times for every action. So I was kind of speculating that the potions for one option could be a point multiplier. So let's say that you earned 1,000 points for Cook by staking, buying, and holding, right? then if you have all 6 potions, maybe you get a 10x multiplier in that point. And or the vice versa, if the other final decision is to hold your puff, maybe you get Egan points, you get carrot points, maybe some CMAF, right? And that's unlocked by having the potion. So I kind of want to get your guys' opinion on that.
I think we should open it up.
So yeah, I mean, it'd be great to hear everyone's opinion on that. Does anyone have anything that they want to say? Anyone want to jump on
Rogue.
stage and share their thoughts?
What do you think, Rogue?
I am honestly just an innocent bystander here. I am learning all the time, so I don't have any valuable input towards this. This is a lot of the first time I'm hearing a lot of this sort of stuff, so yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, fair enough. No worries.
My first experience with crypto has been puff, so yeah, I'm sitting learning.
Very good.
So,
go ahead.
So we know the potions and vials are soulbound NFTs, right? And we were told in the very first AMA that they will have some value. Sometimes that seems like that value is emphasized, and other times it seems like it's not. The only values we've seen ascribed to any of those potions so far, and we have the opportunity to have had 3 of both the potion and the vial so far. The only one that's had any value so far has been the green potion and the green vial, right? Having the green potion gave you a significant baseline multiplier for rewards in chapter 2. But after chapter 2, the red potion and the red vial don't seem to have had any value in the rewards given for chapter 3. So I expect, so maybe the value of the green potion is expired. I don't know, right? But we still have yet to see any value from the red or the blue potions. Now, I wouldn't have expected to see any value from blue yet because we just barely unbonded and received it. But it's reasonable to expect that each potion will have some benefit or value ascribed to it. I think it's pretty hard to speculate exactly what those will be. But there's undoubtedly this journey has built on itself. And while I think it's still valuable to jump in at this stage, and I would if I were a new investor just learning about Puff and Cook and all that, because I think the final decision will be lucrative. I think we've also seen some building, right? So chapter 1, of course, you got in at Genesis price, and that's the benefit of getting there early. Chapter 2, if you had the green potion from chapter 1, you got a higher multiplier. Chapter 3, we didn't really see the benefit of being here in chapter 3, to be honest, other than, the quicker that you bonded, the more BMT that you got over, and as you paid attention, you got to participate in both games. Chapter 4, though, we have seen already a benefit from being involved in the journey, because while we've bonded and received more BMT, we've only gotten 2 weeks worth of BMT in chapter 4. So anyone that was here for chapter 3 still has all of the BMT from chapter 3. So there's already a benefit for having been here for chapter 3, because you've got more BMT that you can use in any game that happens in chapter 4, 5, 6, etc. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate too hard. I don't think that there will be that significant of a reward based off of each potion. But I think cumulatively, I think the reward will be great, and I think there will be a reward that attaches to each potion. And so far, the only potion that's had any sort of benefit has been the green one.
I think that I agree with you both that there definitely will be a reward for having them, and I also agree with you, CC, that it's important to. It doesn't matter. It's great to have the early ones, but it's better to be in now than it would be in a month's time. I remember Gugu speaking about it's better to have 5 than 4, better to have 4 than 3, 2 than 1. So I do believe that it's kind of never too late. My question would be, is what is the use of the vials? because it's always the emphasis is always put on the potions, but we are collecting vials as well, and they are for staking meth, which is obviously going to have a use case with CMEF as well. So is there going to be a reward for having the vials? Do you guys think about that?
I think the clarity that we've received on that is that the vials and the potions are two completely separate paths. There won't be any like mixing. So if you have the potions but you don't have the vials, that's fine.
Yeah.
Then just continue to focus on the puff path, right? And continue to get the potions. So I think the green vial we saw had a similar, though not as powerful, effect on your multiplier in chapter 2, right? So I think the rewards will mirror each other as they continue to be, as we continue to get clarity on what they're going to be. I expect those to be mirrored, but I think they're going to be completely separate. Meaning, there's never going to be a time where because you had the potion and the vial, you're going to get even more than someone that just had the potion or the vial. If that makes sense.
So they're two completely different paths, like you said. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with
I just
that.
thought of something. Do you think the final decision is gonna be like that too, where you can burn meth potentially if you have the vials to get whatever reward as well? So you think there's gonna be potions or for puff final decision, and there's a meth final decision? I know that's never been discussed, but I mean,
Yeah,
with what you're just saying, that would make sense with it being a completely separate thing.
that is literally just what I was thinking from what you were speaking through there, that the vials could potentially be the other half of the final decision.
Burning
Hmm.
meth.
I don't know. I've always seen meth as a way of, going the vial route as a way of, restaking your meth, of course, and receiving puff, though the percent that you receive is much lower than if you're taking puff. I've always just seen it as a more passive opportunity to gain some puff. I doubt. I mean, I don't know, but I would be
I mean,
surprised
yeah. I mean, it's
if
just
there's any
speculation.
mechanism to burn meth at the end. Also, I see a lot of people chatting in the Discord, just making the assumption that the final decision is going to involve some sort of a burn. And I just want to caution everyone that, like, yeah, we've all speculated that's a likely outcome, or that it's a mechanism that would make sense. But no one has ever confirmed, no one from any official source has ever confirmed that Puff will be burnt in exchange for Cook or something else. So, any theory that we've posited that has, that results in a Puff burn is only that. It's just a theory. So let's not get too carried away making the assumption that that's how it's going to be, because we don't know.
Yeah, I think people assume that just because on the first anime, Jordy was talking about for final decision, it could be a potential burn. But I do agree with you. Like as we've seen in the Puff journey, like things can change on the fly. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Jordy decides to not do a burn or something different for the final decision. So I definitely
Did he
agree with
use
that
those
part.
words? Did he say that there could potentially be a burn?
Yeah, that's the words he used in the first
Okay.
AMA. That for the final decision, burn, Puff, or some type of reward. If I remember correctly. But
Yeah, I vaguely remember him throwing that out as an idea,
Yeah.
as a potentiality as well, which I think is why we've all run with it. But it certainly hasn't been confirmed that that's what will happen. And there's certainly a scenario where everyone gets to keep their puff, right? Whether you choose option 1 or option 2 on the final decision, maybe you're choosing between Cook and you're choosing between Cook and the pinata, right? The Carrick and the Eigen and the Jennifer Smith and who knows what else? Maybe something else being rewarded from Mantle, to
that would
make
be
that pot
awesome.
even more
Oh, that
interesting.
is
And then everyone
that is
gets to keep
interesting.
their puff. Like, I don't know, maybe there's no bird.
Well,
And then we have puff
maybe
and everything.
you just use a percentage of what you've got as much as you want to. You can keep as much puff as you want, but you can also burn as much puff as you want, and you can choose one way. So you do burn your puff, but you have to choose the pinata, which is, like you said, just a amount of all the points and liquidity and all of that together, or you choose to burn it for Cook. That would be the hard decision. We don't know how much is in that pinata, and we don't know how much Cook we get, although I believe that would be told to us what the conversion rate would be. Or you keep your puff, and you can kind of make that balance yourself. I don't know. That would be. I think I'd prefer that way because I don't like the thought of having a all or nothing decision. That scares me slightly.
I mean, also recall on the second AMA that Jordy said, "Hey, at some point, I think the community deserves, Dragon NFTs." So maybe the red potion or the blue potion or one of the potions will determine, the rarity of an NFT that you receive, or who knows, right? It could be anything. Maybe you get 3 NFTs because you have all 3 of the potions from chapter 2, 3, and 4. Who knows?
This must be so fun for Via sitting in the room listening, but also knowing what's going to happen. Only 2 people know what's going to happen: Vias and Geordie, and he's sitting there here listening to us speculate about what could happen, knowing full well what is going to happen. That's a privileged position to be in.
For sure.
Maybe they don't have a clue and they're taking notes and they're like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah, taking notes of what we.
Getting ideas. Yeah, well, as you were kind of hitting on a little bit before, it could just be the final dilemma being you pick your reward pool, so either door 1 or door 2, and there doesn't necessarily have to be a burn at all.
Right.
Your
Yeah, that could
your
certainly.
mic's struggling a bit, Rogue. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that, but the struggling with your mic a bit, or to
All
understand.
right. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's a bit muffled, but what Rogue said was essentially that, maybe there won't be a burn, right? Maybe you're just picking door 1 or door 2, but you get to keep your pop. I think
Yeah.
we'd all be excited by that.
Yeah.
Giving up anything to get something, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, preferable, right? Just to, I know you brought up NFTs. Let's quickly discuss. Do you think that the NFTs will be purely cosmetic, or do you think they'll have like some type of utility? Like if you get the NFT, it gives you a point multiplier, just for a lack of uh, a better example.
I mean, we've already got NFTs that are soulbound that should have some utility. So I would expect a more fungible. Um, it's funny to call a non-fungible token a fungible token, but I think you know what I mean. An NFT that's not soulbound, right? That can be actually traded, for which a market can be created,
Yeah.
is what's lacking. Also, because I don't think it was part of the original plan. I doubt that there's going to be any sort of like important utility to any Dragon or Puff NFT that's released. I think mostly it's been a response to like, hey, these these cute dragons that we're seeing everywhere are appealing. These should be NFTs. There should be a way to trade these amongst ourselves.
I disagree
So I
slightly.
wouldn't
I
expect
think they could.
utility, but who knows?
I think they could add the utility. Just because they haven't had it in the plans, I think that they could be fluid enough to bring that into the plans. I think it would be a great idea to bring in some utility to the NFTs. Yes, you can trade it. Yes, you can buy and sell. But equally, you can, if you're holding, then you can again raise some APR or get some extra yield on locking up your puff, for example.
I'm not big into NFTs, and so I don't even know the answer to this. Does Mantle have an NFT marketplace?
Yeah,
Are
it
there
does.
any NFT? It does.
I don't think it's popping yet, but that's not to say it's never gonna be popped, you know? Not to say it can't be big, it's
Sure.
just not right now.
I'm not into
Yeah.
NFTs. I can't get myself to spend lots of money on a JPEG. I struggle with it. But
Showing your age there, Block.
Y'all aren't real
yeah,
DJs, I understand. I get it. It's cool. Not
I've got
everybody can
some. I
be
do
on
have
my
a
level.
few, but I haven't spent lots of money on them. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so the next question, do you think the KOLs is ever gonna come back, or do you think that was just a one and done? And if so, what timing do you think that they're gonna come back? I mean, I can give my
So
opinion first.
Yeah, go
yeah,
for
go
it.
for it, man.
Yeah. So I'm starting to think, the more that I think about it, I think the KOLs will definitely come back probably around the final decision, maybe after the final decision, because I just don't see a world where Mantle releases two new products and there's no like promotion or marketing that comes with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. But what will they, if it's post chapter 6 or post a decision, what do they put the money into? Are they then promoting Puff, or are
Oh,
they
that's a good
promoting
point.
Cook, or are they
Yeah,
promoting
so
both? It's
it would have to be before then, yeah, right? It would have to be because
if it's for Puff, I think so.
because KOs could be like, hey, Puff is a way to get allocation to this new hot ass governance token that's coming out on Mantle. So I could definitely see that raising the price of Puff.
Yeah, I think post.
It's really
I
good.
think.
Go
Go on.
ahead, Bob.
I was
No,
going to
I've
say.
talked plenty.
I was just going to say. I think post decision, then we might be seeing some launches on some different sexes. So I don't know if the coals will be needed so much. I think that job will be done in it, just by being launched on a sex. But yeah, I do think we'll see some coals promoting pre-decision, just really kind of boosting that chapter, probably from chapter 5, maybe chapter 5 and chapter 6, boosting it. They'll want as many wallets to be involved as possible, really, for the launch of Cook. So
So
yeah, I
I
say
don't,
pre.
from what I'm seeing on Twitter, crypto Twitter and elsewhere, I'm not sure the market has made the connection between Puff and Cook yet, and CMET. I know that Jordy specifically mentioned it in the AMA, but he didn't really hammer on it, right? He just kind of brought it up and then only mentioned it again, in fact, because Blockhead, you came on the stage and asked a question, specifically relating to Puff, which is the only reason I think why it was even brought up again. So it was really just a passing comment directed toward Puff in the AMA, and everything that I've seen breaking down the AMA and talking about CMET and trying to provide some education about, what is CMET going to be and what does that mean for Mantle ecosystem. None of those materials on crypto Twitter, on Mantle's blog, none of them mention Puff at all, which is interesting. And also maybe explains some of the price action that we've seen this week, which is to say Puff price hasn't really moved at all, because I don't think the market has made the connection, because I don't think Mantle, although Mantle has now claimed Puff as their official meme, from what I've seen, they haven't quite belabored the point that Puff equals early access to Cook and CMET, et cetera, right? So I think that's still to come. And while I wouldn't throw out a valuation for Cook, or CMeth or any of that, I'm sure Mantle, Jordy, all of those guys behind the scenes have an idea of what the value of those coins should be, what it would be. They probably have an idea of what it will be at like a Pico Bull market top, and then what it should be, more realistically. And I imagine they want Puff to be equal to whatever percentage of that valuation is going to go to Puff times 2, right? Because the decision is going to have to split up in half.
And that'll make the decision harder for us if the valuation is pretty even.
Right. Yeah. Right now we're at Genesis price, and I expect that we're probably currently quite a bit below what the actual value of the Cook is going to be that we're going to receive. Just because it doesn't make sense to release a coin at a very, very specific, they were very particular about the amount or about the value of Puff, right? They even went so far as to refund any meth that was used. So they were very particular at what price point Puff was launched. And I don't think you do that unless you have a pretty good idea of what the end goal is going to be. And of course, you're going to launch at a price that's lower than what you think the end price should be at. And so, yeah, I think at some point the marketing, um,
The KLO machine.
gets,
You think Jordan's gonna turn the burner up?
yeah, I think at some point it gets turned on, and then I think it probably at some point, gets managed so that it doesn't go too high. Because I bet that there's also in fact, I know that there's a too high at which point Mantle would maybe get uncomfortable if Puff soared too high. Until, of course, it's released, right? At some point, Puff will become just a meme to the extent that it won't have this hook utility hanging over it. And then when that happens, of course, the Puff valuation could go anywhere. But I think there is an intentional ceiling to Puff, at least for the next month and a half.
Do
Again,
we
it's
know
just my opinion.
what a, like an average market cap of governance tokens are in general? Like I don't know if Blocky, if you know the value of like Cody, maybe
Have
that
a
could
look.
give us
Yeah, let me have a look.
that might give us like a good estimation, so we can come up with maybe something that's relative fair value. But I do agree with you. I just can't see a railed where Puff's fair value for the Puff airdrop is around mint price. That just, at least at the very least, I think it should be 2 to 3x that, right? Like that just logically makes sense to me. So, do I think Puff is undervalued? Definitely. But obviously, that's my opinion, and obviously that's just my speculation as well. So, but I think a valuation of 300 to 500 million dollars for a governance token is not outlandish. So I don't know where that would land us in the valuation of Puff versus Cook and a percent drop that we get. But I mean, about running the numbers, I just feel like Puff is undervalued to what the Cook
OT.
And I think
airdrop could potentially be.
Was just looking at the example. So Coty has a fully diluted valuation of 250 million, and G Coty, their governance token, is just under 100. So it's about two and a half times less market cap. So
Mm.
if we
I
were
don't know.
if we were at 300, then Cook would be at 100. But then that's Puff against. It's not. That's not the right comparison.
Yeah, for sure. And Mantle's
Yeah.
already $1 billion
Yeah. So
as TVL, so probably a good significant higher than that. So
yeah.
yeah, I think anywhere from 300 to 500 million might be like a realistic. I don't know if I would say release price, but definitely maybe, because what I've seen with airdrops is that they drop for the first couple of weeks, and then after that, they kind of just go on a bullish trend after that. So maybe at the peak of that bullish trend, it could hit anywhere from 400 to 500 million. Of course, this is all my speculation. So, do I think
So
Puff is undervalued compared to what the Cook airdrop could be worth? Definitely,
yeah.
and not financial advice, but if we get paid, or I get paid for my job in the next couple of days, I definitely will be buying Puff. So,
FDV of Puff at 500 million would be 56 cent. 300 million is going to be about 40 then. So yeah, what do you think a true valuation of Puff would be now? If you were saying, okay, what's Puff worth now? What if you're saying it's undervalued now? What would you say it should be?
I think it
Well,
should
with
be.
this utility,
Go ahead,
go ahead,
CC.
Jordan.
Just with the info you got, what you know, what you know now, all the information you have now, what would you say the valuation of Puff should be now?
20 to 25 cents, according to my calculations, would be a relative fair value. And if
Yep.
it burns, right, if 50% of the supply burns, I know that's a bad assumption or whatever, but let's just assume it does, that will automatically bring the price of Puff at 50 cents. So I
Yeah.
think that's realistic, to be honest, for um, the fair value of Puff right now.
It's about 220 million FDV.
Yeah, I would say so, according
Yeah.
to looking at governance tokens of big protocols and
Yeah.
basing on is making assumptions on what percentage of the airdrop that we get. I think that would be a fair value for Puff. Yeah.
What do you think, CC?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I hesitate to put any exact numbers on anything. Um,
That's fair.
Though I did speculate one time in chat what I thought, and then quickly deleted it once I thought better of actually
That's the lawyer in you
throwing numbers
talking.
out there.
Come
So
on, let
some
the inner
people,
DJ talk.
so some people in here might have actually had an opportunity to read that comment before I deleted it. But yeah, I don't know. I'll just take a moment to remind anyone. Depending on how you're doing your valuation, you either have to double what you're thinking for Puff or divide by 2, just depending on your valuation, because you have to remember that there's basically 2 pots of gold at the end of this rainbow. At some point, the rainbow forks, and there's 2 pots of gold. So if you think Cook's valuation, or the percentage of Cook that's being attributed to Puff, valuation is X dollars, like let's say you think it's worth 100 million market cap as an example, and then you need to realize that there's going to be an equally attractive market valuation on the other side. So the actual value of Puff, if you think Cook is 100 million, right? That, let's say the allocation is going to Puff is 100 million. Then you have to think, well, then the other pot that you could choose from is also worth 100 million. So that makes Puff worth 200 million. Is all I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
If you think the total valuation of Puff is 100 million, and that includes both pots, then remember you got to divide that by 2, knowing that you're only going to be able to choose one of the pots. And I think a lot of times people forget that little wrinkle about Puff, is that there's 2 pots of gold, and you're going to have to pick one of them. But I expect that they'll be pretty equal in value, which is what's going to make the decision difficult.
There'll definitely be one. It's tricky because Geordie also always make. It depends, doesn't it? If it's a 50-50 split, if the community, if every bag kind of splits equally down the middle, then yes, it would be an equal split. But it's the same as the games we've been playing, isn't it? The community could be talking about going one way together. I saw, who was it? I said to come up and share. I think it was Moonsy, that is not in the room, I don't think, but had a really good post recently, just before the pod started, talking about something similar. And I've lost my train of thought, but he was talking about how we could come up with a strategy together as community, but then would that outweigh the rest of the wallets, and would we be doing ourselves a disfavor by organizing what we should do? It's tricky. You ideally want to be in the one with the least amount of Puff being burned or swapped or staked.
Yeah, true. I just have a hard time that Jordy's not going to give us 2 decisions where it's going to be close to 50% as possible. I I don't know. I just feel like the decision's going to be hard, and he stated as much in the AMA. So if it's hard, it should be close to 50% that's humanly possible, right? The decision's actually really that hard.
I just think we've been the loyal community in the Discord for by then it'd probably be 4 months. I think you just come in at the end and tell us what to do. just come in, just go left, go left.
See, to me,
Well,
the saying that it's 50-50 is kind of counterintuitive, because then that's not a very hard decision. If you're going to get an equal amount either way, it's not exactly a hard decision, is it?
It definitely won't be, though. He's made it clear that one will be the right decision and one won't be, and that's probably with the weighting. It's
Well,
a tricky one.
he compared it to Lambos and Ferraris, and I think Lambos are slightly more expensive than Ferraris. So
Okay,
I don't know
I
if
don't
you
know
can
if
go
that
too
was
wrong.
I don't think that was Jordy's comparison. I think that was a little extra that was added on to one of the by one of our more bullish community members.
Was it not him?
I'm in an old Honda, so I'd take any upgrade, to be honest.
I didn't hear Jordy say the words Ferrari and Lambo. If I'm wrong and someone else actually heard that, please correct me. But I think that
Yeah, I
was
could
a little
definitely be
addition
wrong.
that was made by a bullish community
I don't
member
remember it.
as a joke. And Which reminds me, we've got a lot of intelligent people in the community that have a lot of really, really valid opinions. But be careful what you listen to, because there's some obvious plants that I think are intentional. And some people are really quite bearish intentionally, because I think they've understood that the point of the game, the point of these 6 chapters, is to gather as much puff as possible at the lowest price possible, because puff price isn't really what puff is all about. Puff is about the final decision. So if you can accumulate puff at low prices, you're in a sweet spot, because regardless of whether puff is 8 cents or 30 cents come chapter 6, the pot, right, the pots of gold will be the same. So puff price is a distraction. It doesn't matter. We're all so fixated on price because that's what crypto has taught us to do. But puff price will matter one day when puff is fully released as a meme coin. But right now, the importance is to gather as much puff as possible. So I think some of the more bearish comments we see are trying to convince people puff is over, this is no good, jump ship. Because the more people that jump ship, the more puff they can buy, knowing that the value of the pot of gold at the end doesn't change.
So we're
Even if puff
swapping.
price goes down to 1 cent.
Yeah, we're swapping the quantity of puff and not the value of the puff. That's what we're really swapping or burning, isn't it? Yeah, I think you're right.
I agree with that.
And you're making me bullish.
It was definitely hinted at that the less people for the final decision, the bigger the pot. So not to say that's an excuse to purposely flood in the chat. I'm watching y'all, but like at least I can understand where you're coming from.
CC will still ban you.
No, I only ban for actual FUD, and I define FUD differently than other people. FUD is when you're just making up complete bullshit out of thin air. But if all you're doing is focusing on the negative, but the negative, I mean, like, there is a negative and a positive argument, and there's a slant that you can put on each one. If your focus is on the negative, but you're making valid points or you're making arguments that are true, then, as long as it's not a personal attack, then I probably won't intervene, and I definitely won't ban you. It's the people that like just jump into the chat, and the only comment that they've ever made is like, Jordy's been fired from Mantle. Oh no. And it's like, okay, you're out. Like, don't just make up stuff that's obviously not true.
So there is a certain sense, or there is a strategy where all of the Discord could get together, sell, force the price down, and then all of the Discord buy it back again. But yeah,
good luck.
Good luck. That takes some organization.
I don't trust. I mean, maybe Phil can pull that off. He pulled it off pretty well.
He wants a 1 cent. He's just put in chat. He wants a 1 cent puff.
I mean, he's joking, but 1 cent is bullish. If I could buy puff at 1 cent, I would buy all the puff that I possibly could. That'd be incredible, because the pot of gold is still going to be worth whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
Now I've just got 10 times as much puff. That'd be fucking awesome.
Somebody was saying we sound like a irrational echo chamber. I mean, to be honest, like I just feel like you haven't been paying attention, because if you pay attention to what Jordy has been saying, it's kind of clear and obvious to me that most of this just rests on the final decision. But you're entitled to your opinion for sure.
Yeah, if what you're hearing from us is an irrational echo chamber of hopium, you're missing the point entirely. I'm probably
just waking up. I'm probably just waking up to the fact that it's about the accumulation more than the price. Myself, probably as most people here, started the journey thinking, okay, it's going to be fun for these 6 chapters. I want to be part of these 6 chapters, see what it's going to be about, and join the ride. I've probably but all the while I've also been wanting the price to go up. But I think it's definitely become obvious now that it is about accumulation, and it is about focusing on that pot of gold at the end. And the more puff I have, the bigger entitlement to that pot of gold I will get the option to choose.
And that just makes sense, because if Jordy really wanted to pump price, like I think we all know that he could definitely pump price, right? He has through his connections, or exactly through his connections, through influencer, crypto Twitter, through his um, uh, with exchanges. Like if he really wanted to push Puff, then I think it would have already been done, right? So the only conclusion I can really come to is that just not in the plan right now.
Look, he has a very popular podcast wherein he mentions Puff once every 3 or 4 episodes. He was on stage live in Dubai with almost the entire crypto community's attention and mentioned Puff not at all. Like there have been a lot of opportunities where he could have pushed Puff if the goal of Puff was to get as high a price as possible. I think it's clear that what I think happened was Genesis came in at exactly the price that they wanted it to because they could control that, right, by refunding meth that was overpriced. Then I think what we saw in chapter 2 was that Puff price pumped a little more quickly than they were comfortable with. So they turned down the marketing faucet. And that's been frustrating for us that are focused on Puff. And of course I understand the inclination to focus on price. But if if Mantle wanted to advertise Puff more at this stage, they would be advertising it. It's not like they're advertising and it's not working. They're silent completely.
Yeah, and that's the same. That's the same on the Twitter as well. You know, there has been times where a week has gone past with not a single post, and they got 75,000 followers. They could be putting out a post every day, 6 posts every day, just to pump price, just to get more wallets. Yeah, it is making more and more sense. It's almost like he's just given us an opportunity in some sense. Like there's some things I just still can't get my head around. Some of the actions I can't get my head around, but it does seem like to me now as an opportunity to accumulate, and that's not financial. That's just me mumbling. It's not financial advice at all. That's just what I'm thinking personally now. I just want to have a bigger shot at that bag at the end.
Is
Yeah,
there
I
any
agree. And I want to address the comment. MSA is making some comments that I might not agree with, but I think are valid and should be addressed and should be considered. So let me just address it. You say that it's weird to start a meme coin off saying that utility is bearish while there's also a governance token. Um, I I agree. It could be seen as weird. I think almost everything we've seen from the official Puff Twitter has either been some sort of direction about what to do in this chapter or where Puff is headed up along the roadmap, or it's been some tongue-in-cheek commentary, like meta commentary about Puff. And I think the comments about utility being bearish have been kind of tongue-in-cheek, meaning it's a meme coin, but a meme coin with utility, and it's a meme within a meme, so it's memeception, right? It's a meme that utility is bearish within crypto Twitter. But the reality is that it is bearish because a true meme has no value, right? It's only as valuable as the people buying it or how much they're willing to put into it. But that means it has no floor, but it has no ceiling. Utility has a ceiling because you can do a valuation of how much money a utility token is bringing in. So you can attach a value to that, and then that creates a ceiling for the token. So Puff's ceiling right now, until chapter 6, Puff is limited by the value of Cook and the value of CMET and the value of this ecosystem that we now understand Puff is a part of. So utility is bearish in that sense. Puff can't go to $4 because I'm sure that would outpace the value of the portion of Cook that's being allocated to Puff. But someday Puff will be released from those bindings, right? And Puff can become a true meme coin, and then there isn't a ceiling. I'm not saying that it's going to be worth $4. I'm just saying that that ceiling, that utility disappears, and Puff could potentially fly from there. Certainly, I'm not saying it will, and I tend to shy away from meme coins, and so I only bought Puff because I understood right away that it was more than what it seemed. It was not a simple meme coin. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, to be honest. I don't spend much time in memes in general.
That's a good point.
We just hit an hour. Is there any last questions or comments from the community before we wrap it up?
Just wanted to give Rogue an opportunity just to talk about what's been going on amongst the community with some of the competitions, like some mini competitions that some of the guys have been coming up with ideas. Rogue, I don't know if you wanted to share about what you were wanting to
Yeah.
start up.
Well, me and Melissa had a lot of fun with Zoot's little image challenge that he was given 1,000 BMT out for. Even although I forgot to post mine, my vote didn't count. But yeah, that was my mistake. So Melissa and myself are going to be putting together a treasure hunt, which we hope is going to test your Mighty Dragon IQs. We're
Nice.
going to make a little trail of picture clues and puzzles leading to one ultimate answer. So that should be within the next few days once we get things sorted out. We've got the base plan sorted, but we need to do the little in-between bits as well.
Sounds cool. Is that going to be just based in Discord, or will it take us away from
It's
Discord and
going
back?
to start in Puff Puff Pass.
Okay, nice. And
So
then
yeah, we're
we'll
going to
find out where
start
we
it in
go.
Puff Puff Pass, and we'll post it in the Order of Dragons and the Gen chat as well.
That sounds great.
And we've also just had one today that we've learned that we shouldn't use Instagram because not everybody can access it. So the one that we did today was a little test.
Okay, nice. I missed that, but yeah, no, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's just the one that Zoot did. Me and Melissa had a lot of fun with it, so we thought, well, why not? We'll give out a little bit of our BMT for having a bit of fun. And it should be difficult, so don't expect it to be easy.
Yeah, some of the OGs, we were just chatting about getting a bit of a prize pool, a BMT prize pool together to kind of sponsor some of these community-led competitions. I know that we're going to be getting some from the team as well for other competitions, for the team meme competitions coming out in the next week, I believe. So we can look forward to that launch. But they're more the official competitions and with prizes of Puff, but these will be prizes of BMT. Yeah, so thanks for that, Rogue.
Yeah, no problem at all. As I say, we just enjoy interacting with the community, so if we can do things that everybody can have fun with, yeah, great.
Good stuff. Jordan.
Yeah, let me add one thing. I just thought about something, and CT, you can back me up or you can add your commentary. But from my understanding, CMEF's goal is to gain a lot of liquidity from Ethereum in general. So I think it's trying to be the liquidity of Ethereum, right? Like a one-stop shop for you to farm pretty much all new applications on ETH. So if that's the case, then the roof it can shoot through the roof easily. If it actually managed to successfully attain that goal, then the governance token of something like that could be billions. I mean, it is some copium and some hopium, but I mean, I think that is the goal of CMEF, unless I'm misunderstanding something.
So a comment was made by Jordy in the AMA on, was it Monday? Was that, or Tuesday? I don't remember. Tuesday, right? I don't remember. Whatever day it was, early this week. This week's been a shit show for me outside of the world of crypto. But whatever day the actual AMA was, Jordy made a comment in there that I'm not going to get the exact quote right, but he said something like, CMET is going to become, the preferred asset of the ecosystem. Now, he didn't define which ecosystem he was referencing, and I think he was talking about Mantle, but I think he was also, because it elicited quite a bit of laughter from Edmund, who was also speaking on the AMA. He almost sounded uncomfortable with the proclamation that Jordy made. I think it's too obvious of a statement to only apply to the Mantle ecosystem. Of course, CMET is going to become the preferred asset of the Mantle ecosystem because meth is already the preferred asset. And of course, CMET is just going to be a better version of meth. So, of course, right? Like, obvious. And at least from what I was listening, the nuance in Jordy's voice and the response from Edmund was that there was some discomfort there. There was a bit of perhaps prophecy in there that if they can do this right, you can hold CMET and get the yield of meth and all of the benefits of Ethereum while still having this, restaked receipt token that you can still use in dApps on Ethereum mainnet and on Mantle Network, and who knows where else, depending on exactly what partnerships they're able to negotiate. So I think if I understand Jordy at all, and obviously I don't know him at all, but if I understand him at all, I would expect that his sights aren't set only on dominating the Mantle ecosystem, because he's already done that. He did that with Math. I think his sights are set on something bigger than that. So I agree, Jordan. I think it could be really huge, and I think they're trying to target Ethereum mainnet. I don't think they're just trying to become the dominant player on Mantle.
They were totally clear on that on the AMA. I think it was Jordy that actually said it. He clearly said it was going to be a multi-chain token, and it would be Mantle and Layer 1 Ethereum, but then they would also try and spread the wings onto other Layer 2s as well. So I think he has huge plans for it.
Yeah, and I just say that to say, hey, don't I am putting an arbitrary value on what I think the floor of Cook could be, but if they pull this off right, the ceiling it could be way, way higher than what I'm speculating. So I just wanted to throw that out there for our daily hopium. Any last questions or anything before we wrap up today's session?
Rogue's just put a point on there that we should make it clear that there haven't been made any plans. No plans have been made known to us about sex listings at all, and that is our position. We don't have any information on that at all. It's just our speculation that could be on the cards, and I think that's speculation based on the way Jordy has been communicating about it within the AMAs. I refer back to Belinda's questions on the recent AMA, Puff AMA, where he was pushed on it a couple of times, and his words kind of he didn't say that we would get a listing, but he could probably make it happen whenever he wants to.
I mean, Puff has existed since March, and this week was the very first time that we've heard anyone from Mantle say, this is Mantle's meme coin. Like, we've all speculated that it is, but also every time that's brought up, Jordy has said, well, technically Mantle's not officially involved, and other people have said, yeah, well, technically it's not directly associated with Mantle. And then suddenly this week, it's like, oh yeah, Puff is Mantle's meme. What do you guys mean?
Last week he left. Last week there was speculation that he'd left Mantle.
Well, yeah, that was just some random futters that I quickly disposed of. But but yeah, so I wouldn't expect a lot of clarity as to it, and I refuse to call it. It's called a CEX as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there is
It's a CEX, and I don't expect we'll have a lot of clarity on a CEX. But if after Chapter 6, Puff doesn't get almost immediately listed on Bybit, I will be flabbergasted. So, that's what I think.
Phil just put CC doesn't like sex.
That's funny ass comment. All right. Well, thank you guys for attending. It was a lot more speculation heavy than our standard format, but hopefully you got some good information or you at least thought it was interesting. And thanks for coming.
We should be back at full capacity next week, and we'll have some more specific topics. Although I think this week went pretty well. Again, anyone that's here next week, we'll encourage you to please take the stage. Please, we would always appreciate a little more vocal involvement from the crowd. So be thinking about that, and please join us next week. Anyway, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.